everybody, it's Sarah and welcome to a rather late August wrap-up. On the topic of rather late, I obviously didn't upload last Sunday, and actually I just wanted to announce that I will probably upload not very regularly for the next month at least, because I have started working more hours at my job. Also, uni is starting up again, and also I am moving in October and November, and I've actually already started packing, which is why my bookshelves, they don't look disorganized maybe on a first glance, but actually if you look more closely, they're all over the place currently. Because I've already packed up at least half of my books already, and so I just moved the rest of the books together, so I can always see kind of how many books I still have left. But yeah, so with moving and everything, I'm not quite sure how regularly I can upload, basically, is what I'm saying. And so today's video is my August wrap-up. It's going to be a shorter one because I did not read a lot in August. In fact, I think I only finished a total of 3 books. I'm trying to pull up my stats from Storygraph for August so that we can go through them first. Yeah, I read a total of 3 books and 830 pages, so yeah. Moods are dark, adventurous, mysterious, and emotional. Very fun. Also, by the way, if the light is kind of weird in this video, it's because I have my sunlight lamp on over there, but I didn't put up my ring light because it's somewhere in the mess that is my room currently. Also, if you want a video of me organizing my bookshelves once I'm in the new flat, tell me in the comments down below. But yeah, 100% of the books are medium paced that I read in August according to Storygraph. Then I had 1 book under 300 pages and 2 books between 300 and 500 pages. All of what I read in August was fiction, and my genres were fantasy, historical, and LGBTQIA. I read 1 book as an ebook and 2 books in print format, and my star ratings were 3.25, 4 stars, and 5 stars. So 1 of each category. And then in terms of my inclusivity stats, I'm trying to think of my inclusivity stats right now. I read 2 books that were by BIPOC authors. I read 1 book with queer characters by a queer author, and I think once again my disability and mental health stats were just abysmal this month. And so yeah, let's get started. Let's talk through the book. So first, as always, let me start with the stuff that I am still currently reading, that I have started in August. Although I have to be honest, one of those things I have already finished as well, and that is Starlight Jewel by E.L. Lyons, which was sent to me in return for a review, which I still have to film. But you'll hear more about my thoughts on this in my review, and also once I do my September wrap-up, because I did only finish it in September. I am also still doing my reread of Labyrinth's Heart by M.A. Carrick. So yeah, I'm just highly enjoying it. I had originally intended to be done with my reread by the time that I interviewed the 2. By the way, if you're interested in finding out more about the thoughts and the intentions behind the world building, mostly in the Rook and Rose series, I did interview M.A. Carrick last month. So my interview with them, I will link down below. I did originally, as I said, intend to be finished with my reread before the interview. However, right now I'm actually quite happy that I wasn't finished, because through the stuff that we talked about, I'm now noticing some other things that I hadn't noticed before, which just adds to my experience. So I'm really enjoying my reread of that. I also have started my reread of Inkheart by Cornelia Funke. Yeah, very much enjoying it. I think I already started it in July, possibly. No, I started it in August. And then I also started my read of Speaking Bones by Ken Liu, but I'm like 2 chapters into that. Yeah, I'm kind of having a hard time picking stuff up at the moment. I don't know why. I mostly just pick stuff up when I'm on the public transport, but my copy of Speaking Bones is one of those massive paperbacks, and I'm not taking that with me. So anyway, let's get to the books that I finished in August. Obviously starting with my rereads. My first reread, or my only reread for August, was She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan. This was also technically my 5-star read of the month, which I will count this time around, because when I read this the first time I gave it 3.5 stars. And the first time I read it when it came out in 2021, and 2021 was an interesting year for me in terms of reading, because it was the year where I absolutely read the most that I had ever read. I read 200 books that year, and I realized for me personally that's just not how much I want to be reading, because a lot of books just kind of mesh together and kind of blur together. And because I was reading a lot of books at the same time, I often couldn't enjoy specific books, even though I knew I would enjoy them otherwise. And that was also the case with She Who Became the Sun, where I read this book and in my mind I was like, I know I should love this book. Like, this is exactly the type of book that I absolutely adore, with just a lot of, for example, philosophizing about gender and what is gender, about fate, and very character focused, but like character exploration focused book. And I just couldn't connect with it in 2021. But even back then, if you watch my review, I did a full review of this book. If you watch my review of this book, even back then I said, I am 100% certain once I reread this book, it will be a 5 stars. And so I reread it, and it's a 5 stars. I adored it. I loved it. The writing is gorgeous and beautiful. The storytelling, the characters, I love everything about this book. This is not necessarily the 5-star book where I intensely connect to the characters and where I feel very personally and emotionally invested in the characters, but regardless, it's a perfect book still. It just gives me so much else. But what is this about? This is kind of hard to describe. The marketing used to say it's Mulan meets The Song of Achilles. I personally think that marketing is misleading. However, we do follow 2 characters, and one of those characters, you can kind of see where the Mulan parts of the marketing gag come from, because one of those characters is Zhu, and Zhu was born as a daughter and by a kind of like soothsayer type person was told that her fate would be nothing. However, her brother was pronounced the fate of having greatness. And so when her father and brother are killed in a bandit attack, Zhu decides that she is going to take her brother's fate and make it her own. And so she makes her way onto this monastery where her brother was supposed to go and where her brother was promised. And then the other character that we follow is Ouyang, who is a general. He's a general of the Mongols and he is fighting for them. However, he also kind of has his own vendetta against them. And there's also a lot of gender stuff going on with him because he is a eunuch, and so he kind of encompasses the space between the binary genders. And so the 2 characters every now and again cross paths, and their fates are certainly somewhat intertwined. I reread this to prepare for the 2nd book, which just came out, and I in fact got my Illumicrate copy today of He Who Drowned the World. I'm so excited to start this. However, I will just hold back for a little bit yet because I am leaving for Tuscany on Sunday, and I don't think that I'll be able to finish this before then. And I don't want to, you know, take a break in between, but I also don't want to take this copy on vacation with me. This copy will not leave the safety of my home, except when moving, obviously. Then as for the other two books that I read for the first time in August, the first I had was Outlaw Mage by K.S. Veloso, which is the first book in the Dagayan Puppet Master series. I was sent an arc of this, so this is a physical arc. It's my first physical arc, which makes me so excited. I have been sent physical copies of books before, as you saw with the Starlight Jewel, but this is my first actually physical arc. And yeah, I have a complicated relationship with K.S. Veloso's writing. I don't know if any of you remember me reading the Chronicles of the Bitch Queen. I had less issues with this first book than I had with The Wolf of Oren-Yaro, but my main issue, or one of my main issues with K.S. Veloso, is that she writes in first-person perspective, which I don't tend to prefer with high fantasy and with epic fantasy. And I don't know, I can't even put my finger on it, but I had a really hard time getting into this book, getting into the characters. However, I do have to say that by the end of it, I did really enjoy it, and I am certainly interested in seeing where the story goes. This, by the way, is set in the same general world as the Chronicles of the Bitch Queen, but not in the same country or on the same continent. And yeah, what is this about? This is about, what was the main character's name? I forgot her name. Yeah, I forgot the main character's name. But basically it's about our main character, who is part of an oppressed minority within this country where magic is kind of like, magic is something very important. However, you are only allowed to do magic if you've gone to one of the magic schools and if you've been certified by them. And even if you drop out, you are not allowed to do magic anymore, or you become an outlaw mage. So our main character is part of this oppressed ethnicity, and she's the only one and the first person of this ethnicity who has made it to basically the most prestigious magic school in this country. And she drops out on the day or in the week of her final exams, and she runs away and she becomes an outlaw mage, who then kind of gets drawn into some intrigues when her father ends up missing and she has to go and look for him. And so yeah, I enjoyed it. As I said, I had troubles getting into it. I will try to more concisely put my thoughts into words when I film my full review, but I think I can still recommend it. I think if you enjoyed the Chronicles of the Bitch Queen, then you will enjoy this one as well. And then the last book I read this month was another arc. I seemingly read a couple of arcs this month, actually only arcs and rereads. And that was my e-arc that I got of Words of Kings and Prophets by Shauna Lawless, which is the second book in the Gale song. I enjoyed this just as much as I enjoyed the first book. This is historical fantasy set in Ireland around the turn of the century, between the 10th and 11th century, so around 1000. Around that time. And it's this kind of time of change within Ireland. Christianity is slowly starting to get a hold. A lot of kings get baptized, but you also still have the Viking kings that sometimes also are Christianized already, sometimes still believe in the old Norse gods. And then obviously of the Irish people also, some of them still hold on to their old beliefs. And among the humans you have two races. You have the Fomorians and you have the Toda De Danann, who have been fighting for centuries basically. And it is thought that the last of the descendants of the Toda De Danann killed the last of the Fomorians a few years ago. However, unbeknownst to them, one of them or two of them survived, and one of those is one of our main characters. It's Gormla, who is the queen of a Viking king and who tries to get her son, who's like fifth in line or something, on the throne. And then the other character we follow is Fola, who is one of the descendants, and she is sent to spy on one of the human kings by her husband, who is the leader of the descendants. And so you kind of follow those two characters through the years as they're struggling and as they're kind of, you know, trying to find their way, trying to find who they're loyal to, etc. And the second book continues on, obviously, where the first book left off. I'm trying to not say too much in case of spoilers, but safe to say I really enjoyed the direction that the story was going in, although Gormla, compared to the first book, I mean, she also wasn't necessarily likable in the first book, but compared to the first book, she very much now has established herself as an antagonist within the story, which I just think is very interesting to have, you know, an antagonist as a POV character. And then Fola, I enjoyed her development so much. I really enjoy her type of characters, those type of characters that have this very quiet strength, but in general are very caring and soft on the outside. And I just really loved her. I loved her coming into her own. I loved her kind of starting to find her own way, finding her confidence again, because she does have people in her past who are supreme gaslighters. There's one character that I already hated last book, but this book, oh my god, I've really started hating him. And yeah, I just really enjoyed it and ended up giving it 4 stars. And so that was it for my August wrap up. If you have read any of the books that I mentioned, leave your thoughts on them down below. Did you enjoy them / not enjoy them just like I did? If you enjoyed this video, maybe think about giving me a thumbs up and also maybe subscribing. All the links to my social media as well as to my book club of Queens, Witches and Valkyries, where you read one adult high fantasy book written by a woman or genderqueer person per month, will be left linked down below, so go and check those out. And I hope I'll see you very soon. Bye!